So I just want to start by saying how grateful we are to be standing here. I'm standing here as director of Black Lives Matter Grassroots and co-founder of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. I'm standing with my friends and sisters and comrades and co-leads, Audrina Redmond of Black Lives Matter I almost claimed you. Black Lives Matter Long Beach and Black Lives Matter Grassroots Director of Political Education. Also standing with us is Reverend Carlene Griffiths-Sekou of Black Lives Matter Boston. She's the Director of Healing Justice and Global Village for Black Lives Matter Grassroots. And Angela Waters Austin of Black Lives Matter Lansing and Black Lives Matter Michigan, who is our Director of Policy and Operations for Black Lives Matter Grassroots. I want to repeat what Dominique shared, that Black Lives Matter Grassroots is Black Lives Matter, and all of us are grateful to be standing with all of us who make up the movement. We make up the movement. We are the movement. So we're grateful to all of you. Some of you come from right up the street. I'm looking at where was Professor Jody Armour lives. I'm telling on you, but lives right up the street. But we also have people who came from as far away as Jamaica. Carlene came from Jamaica. We have Dr. Yusef Salam and Black Lives Matter Atlanta flying in from Atlanta. We have Brother Stevante Clark, who came all the way from Sacramento. But we have folks who came from all over the country and world to be with us, to stand with us, and to say that Black Lives Matter belongs to the people who birthed and built it. Black Lives Matter belongs to the people who birthed and built it. So we are grateful to be standing among each other. We also want to acknowledge the difficulty of the space that we now find ourselves in. So, we are used to fighting white supremacy. We are used to fighting police brutality. We are used to having to face institutions that represent white supremacist, patriarchal, heteronormative capitalism and chant them down. That is the work we are called into. That is our divinely guided work. What is more difficult is recognizing that sometimes white supremacy, sometimes the existing system uses people who look like us to advance its interests. And so it's much more difficult to have to face challenges from within. But that's what we're doing right now. We're facing challenges from within because we know that is the righteous thing to do, and we operate with integrity. So we are being truth tellers here today. I want to lift up that there are many stories about the birth of Black Lives Matter, and we have the herstory, which we love, about the three co-founders, Alicia Garza, Opal Tometi, and Patrisse Cullors, and how they were online after the murder of Trayvon Martin and the acquittal of his murderer. And they hashtagged the words Black Lives Matter. They hashtagged the words Black Lives Matter. And that is a beautiful story. It compelled us and called us into action. We also want to acknowledge that simultaneous to that story is the story of what happened right here in Africatown, right there in that park that's across the street. When mamas of the movement, when people like me and fathers like Billion filled this park before there were blue gates around it, and were called into our sacred duty to build a movement, not a moment. To build a movement, not a moment. Black Lives Matter has always been about boots on the ground, about boots on the ground. So, the movement was born here. It was born in the streets, and of course there was a calling online, but it was the boots on the ground that gave life to Black Lives Matter. We built the movement. Regular workers, elders, young people built this movement. We have invested our blood, sweat, and tears. And the movement has been fueled by the spirits of people like Melly Corrado, by the spirits of people like Rosario Mack and Stephon Clark and all of those names that we called. The spilt blood of our people fuels this movement. And so we need to remember that's what Black Lives Matter is here in Los Angeles, where LAPD has now shot 29 people and killed at least 13 people so far this year, and it's only September, right? That's true here in Los Angeles, and it's true around the world. It's true in Jamaica, where we're building Black Lives Matter Jamaica. It's true in Boston. It's true in Long Beach. It's true in Michigan. It's true in Atlanta. That's the truth of Black Lives Matter, that we are the boots on the ground who build with people in Buffalo to say that they will not massacre our people in grocery stores and not have it answered by our folks. It's true in Akron, Ohio. It's true when we stand for Dante Wright in both North Carolina and Minneapolis. It's true because we are the lifeblood of Black Lives Matter. The boots on the ground is the lifeblood of Black Lives Matter. And the people have supported us. The people have supported us with their dollars. People like my mother, who is a black single mother, retired elementary school teacher, who never shopped for new clothes for herself, but calls the thrift store Nordstrom's and gives dollars to Black Lives Matter. It's true for everybody who forego their, I don't know if that's how you say it, forwent. I don't know how you conjugate that verb, but who decided not to go to Starbucks, who decided to cook beans and rice instead of meat for their family, who said, my dollars are going to be used to get black people free. People have invested their voices. They've trusted what we've said online and amplified it. People have been boots on the ground alongside us, have been in the streets in 2020 and continue to be in the streets in 2022. And so we owe it to those people to tell the truth, to tell a hard truth, that Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation has been taken away from the people who built it. Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation is now led by a highly paid consultant who paid himself upwards of $2 million in a single year. These are the dollars that my mama donated, and has now taken away our social media platforms and is using them to amplify things that are not in line with what we are building. And so we are saying that just like we challenge white supremacy when it comes in forms that we recognize, we have to challenge white supremacy when it comes in forms that sometimes masquerade as people who look like us. And so my Baba who's here, Baba Hank Jones, who's one of the San Francisco 8, who is a veteran of the Black Panther Party and the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and is also my Baba in the truest sense. We are joined together by love and spirit. Baba always taught me that when something happens, you go to the people. So thank you for that teaching. Thank you for giving us the courage to go to the people. So we are coming to the people and saying we intend to get our stuff back. We intend to get our stuff back. You don't get to steal our money. You don't get to steal our platforms. And you don't get to steal the name Black Lives Matter, because Black Lives Matter belongs to the people who birthed it, who built it, and to the spirits who fuel it. So we are coming for our stuff. You can give it back or we gonna take it.
Who's host? Who's host? Who's host? Who's host?
And so we say all power to the people.
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 Ashe.
Ashe.
Next, we're going to hear from another family, a family that is soon to have a long, hard-fought day in court. The family of Andrew Joseph III, his mama, Deanna Joseph.
It's very difficult to be in a setting where you know so much hard work has been poured into this work. I come to you as a mother whose 14-year-old child was killed. And for a regular citizen, you don't know what that looks like. But for an impacted family, you feel it every day. And to live in Tampa, Florida, where my son was killed, we had to build what we saw here in California. We built a Black Lives Matter initiative chapter with families impacted. We have mothers who have been impacted, fathers and siblings. And to see that this has been where we stand today, having to fight for is what is belonging to the people, is disheartening. I know without a doubt that we will be victorious in this.
That's right.
We will be victorious in this. But this is what it looks like today. And we will not lose hope. We will not lose our motivation and drive to this system that has come to oppress us. We continue to fight on, and I'll introduce my husband, Mr. Joseph, who will tell you more as far as the case and our fight to end qualified immunity, which is the campaign that we're working on behalf of the support of Black Lives Matter Grassroots Florida and Black Lives Matter Grassroots. So Mr. Andrew Joseph is my husband, and we're here from Tampa, Florida.
As a grieving parent, this is a pain that's unimaginable. When you get that phone call, when you get that knock at the door, it says your seed, a piece of your heart, a whole wing off of your body has been killed, is now dead. You expect answers. First thing you want to know is what happened. As these families that stand behind me, we wait months and months and years for those answers, if they ever come. Any category that you look at, that you can imagine, economics, economy, education, black people are dead last by design. Racism is the biggest problem on the planet. It's the elephant in the room that nobody wants to address. It is our job to cure this world of the sickness of racism.
Yeah.
And we do that by replacing this system that we live in, which is the system of hate, with love. With love. My son was a 14-year-old honor roll student, a golden child, a child that a father will pray for. We allowed him to go to the Florida State Fair. While he was at the Florida State Fair, he was detained by the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, the Gang Force Task Force. They took him. They took him. They took him from me. They took him from the world. They fingerprinted him. They took his picture. They said, we're not going to charge you with a crime. You didn't really do anything. But what we're going to put you in an official police car, drop you off 100 yards from the interstate, and not call anybody. And basically abandoned my son on the side of the road, never charged with a crime. As he was trying to get back to the safety of the fair, he was hit on top of I-4 by one Jonathan Hatfield. Jonathan Hatfield never got a ticket, didn't have a breath test. He was allowed to leave the scene with my son's remains all over the front grill as if nothing had ever happened. Now this was February the 7th, 2014. It's been 8 years and we still fighting for a police report. But finally, after the sheriff was allowed to hide behind sovereign immunity, qualified immunity, crowned immunity, supreme immunity, after 8 years, we finally got a day in court that will be coming up September the 12th. See, when this happens to you, it's Black Lives Matter that stands next to you. When you're in that crazy phase, when you're in stage 1, when you can barely spell your name, you wonder how you gonna get this child in the ground with no insurance, and no suit to wear, and no dress shoes to get buried in, and they need brand new underwear. Imagine you in Walmart buying your son the last pair of drawers ever, with no answers. It's Black Lives Matter that provide foods for the families doing this, because you can't cook, you can't go to work, you can't deal with nobody else's problems, because the daddy need counseling, the mama need counseling, the siblings need counseling, the community needs counseling. If we was burnt up, there'd be somewhere else for us to go. If we had cancer, we can go to a treatment center. There's no treatment for police brutality, which is a strong arm for some white supremacy. Whose house? Whose house? Whose house? Power up! Break down! Power up! Break down! Power up! 2 times, break down! Andrew Joseph III, say his name!
Andrew Joseph III!
Say his name!
Andrew Joseph III!
Say his name!
Andrew Joseph III!
Put some respect on him.
Bow, bow, bow!
Deanna and Andrew Joseph, I hope we'll all cover this upcoming trial on September 12th and every day thereafter. We're going to hear from some national organizers joining us today in support, standing with Black Lives Matter, standing with these families, standing with Black Lives Matter Grassroots, because Black Lives Matter Grassroots is Black Lives Matter. Joining us. How do you fund the building if you're in a legal
So when
fight?
people say what happened to the money, what happened to the money, Black Lives Matter Los Angeles took the money that people were generous enough to give us during the uprisings, and we invested it in buying this building. So that's where our money went. As Los Angeles is part of Grassroots, we decided to build the Center for Black Power. This is a space, I asked Joseph to come out because this is a space that we use for Center for Black Power.
Oh man, this is a space that we use for building Black community and disrupting white supremacy, for helping to incubate movements that are on the ground, for helping to do political education, for helping to host community meetings, for helping to develop youth organizers, for helping to support some of the mutual aid work that we do, for hosting our monthly Black Lives Matter Los Angeles general membership meetings. This is a space that we are reclaiming in this historic area of Black Los Angeles, in the area, in this very, across from the very park where the Black Lives Matter movement started and had its first major uprisings. This is a space that we use to help to support and incubate movement, to support Black people, to support Black movement and Black organizing, and to disrupt white supremacy.
And what happened here this summer?
Oh man, this summer a lot of stuff happened, but one of the things that I was blessed to be a part of was supporting youth who are organizing to disrupt the school-to-prison pipeline, to end policing in schools, to end the use of state-sanctioned violence against our children, right? Helping to support youth to do political education, to do organizing training, to do skill building, to get involved in this community and in this broader movement for Black liberation, and to reimagine what public safety means, to reimagine what our public institutions, what our public dollars can go towards, and the type of resources and support and community that we need in our schools and in our broader community.
And that's what the building is. Amir also has used the building.
Yeah, I can share. Just last month we
Come
hosted,
to the mics.
just last month at this building, my nonprofit Project Knucklehead, who we do planning in the community, we do programming. We hosted a film festival for Black women with three generations of Black women filmmakers, free of charge to the community. Black Lives Matter gave us the space free of charge, so it's like a community space. That's what we were able to use it for. So we really appreciated that they just opened the doors and allowed the community to actually do it, because before Black Lives Matter owned this, there was a very problematic owner, right? And now this is one of the most, this is probably the blackest area in Los Angeles, right? And Africatown, that's why we call it Africatown. And now this building is actually open to the community because of the work of Black Lives Matter. And I could share more details. Yeah, we can clap that up, you know, because last year, right, this store was closed. It actually, for most of the past 10, 20 years, it's been closed to the Black community. But I can share, there are 5 claims in the complaint. The first being unfair business practices. The second being intentional misrepresentation, and you've heard about some of that. The third being fraud. The fourth being conversion. And finally, fifth, unjust enrichment. As you heard, over 8 figures, upwards of $2 million, this consultant paying himself in self-dealing, which we know goes against the spirit of what a nonprofit is supposed to exist for the public. Thank you.
I'm Pastor James with Clergy for Black Lives, co-founder of Clergy for Black Lives, and I'm coming here to say, to thank Black Lives Matter. Number one, you know, I'm a crier, and I take a lot of pride in that, because love touches me. And so I came to Black Lives Matter. For 17 years, we've been doing what is called the culturally based algebra camp. We teach Black kids that you can do math because you invented it. And so for 17 years, and because of the pandemic, we had to close down. We could not service these kids. And so we know that there is a tremendous deficit that children are facing, specifically Black children, but generally all children, as a result of the pandemic. And so on kind of a side conversation that I was having, Dr. Abdullah said, we lost our funding because some folks tried to steal the program. So I'm used to, Dr. Abdullah said, we'll help you. And I'm thinking, well, I'm in the Valley. I'm also president of San Fernando Valley NAACP. I said, I'm in the Valley. It didn't matter. And so I rise to say that the impact and the power of Black Lives Matter exists in communities where there is not a formal chapter. And so at the end of the day, we will get what was stolen. And I'm not afraid to go on record as saying, I'm willing to personally take it in Jesus' name, and that would be the Black one. So Melina, Black Lives Matter is what we do. We do it for y'all. We do it for you all. So God bless you.
All right, unless there's anything super pressing, we're going to wrap up. There will be I wanted, in the press release that went out, there was a statement, there was a part of the statement that was made by, well, they rounded up every motorcycle in the city, huh? I want to read from something that, a statement that was included in the press release from Patrisse Cullors in support of today's event. This was sent out, so you may already have it. This is just a part of it. She said, when I stepped down from the BLM Global Network Foundation in May of 2021, I left a transition plan meant to ensure that Grassroots retained the social media accounts as the forward-facing body of BLM, be handed the financial assets to advance the movement, and continue to be the body that represents Black Lives Matter. There was a lengthy statement that was issued by Patrisse Cullors. A lot of you have been asking about that statement, or asking what she would have to say about this controversy, if you will. Well, on the advice of her lawyers, Patrisse Cullors has rescinded her statement, and so it will not be available today, nor will it be read at this press conference. It is an unfortunate situation. I'm not going to say too much more, but we're going to have questions and answers after this. Certainly a disappointment that the legal team saw fit to prevent her from giving a statement that would help clarify a situation. But I think our speakers, our families, our 26 chapters, and the work that Black Lives Matter continues to do on the ground every single day tells the story best of all, if only we would listen. And now we're going to hear from Black Lives Matter Grassroots legal representative. Dr. Abdullah, you want to make the introduction? The legal representative, one of our team members, has COVID, so he won't be here today, but we do have other members of the team here.
So we want to welcome to read our official statement from our attorney. We did file a legal, I don't know what it's called. We filed a lawsuit this morning, and Amir Whitaker is on our legal team. We have a really beautiful legal team that's led by Walter Mosley, who unfortunately has COVID, but he did send a statement, and Amir, who also serves on the legal team, will read that statement.
Morning, family. I'm going to read the statement prepared by Walter Mosley, the attorney of record for the complaint that was filed this morning. My name is Amir Whitaker. I'm the director, founder and director of a nonprofit called Project Knucklehead, who actually work with BLM to put on community events here, and they've supported us. But I'm also a senior policy attorney with the ACLU of SoCal. And on 8th Street, our ACLU office, you'll see there's a mural spanning hundreds of square feet with several of the members of Black Lives Matter in there, honoring the work and solidarity that we've been doing. They are the grassroots movement. So I'll now read the statement. This morning, on behalf of Black Lives Matter, we filed a lawsuit in Los Angeles Superior Court against the Global Network Foundation, Bowser's Consultant, and Shalomyah Bowers. The complaint sets forth 5 significant causes of action demanding that the court return the stolen property and, more importantly, intervene on behalf of the people. This is a classic case of identity theft, not targeted at any one individual, but rather against the most significant Black liberation movement of this generation. One day, a relatively unknown but greedy administrator posed as the owner of BLM, Black Lives Matter, while recognized leaders and the members of the organization were on the front lines and fighting for justice. As part of his sophisticated self-dealing scheme, this interloper mechanically drained the coffers of our movement with exuberant consultant fees reaching 8 figures in less than 18 months, using the people's donations as his personal bank account. And when challenged in the heat of the night, he retaliated against the movement leaders by changing passwords to their account, hijacking the people's movement, and seizing the organizational tools that were built on the backs of the men, women, boys, and girls murdered by state-sanctioned violence these past 10 years. This lawsuit demands that they return the people's funds and stop impersonating Black Lives Matter. The multiple state attorney generals investigating him and his businesses, I'm afraid, will demand much more of him, as we'll see. Today we are asking the court to intervene on behalf of the people in Black Lives Matter. Although we believe that this is an impactful first step to restore Black Lives Matter reputation, there is still so much more work to be done. Walter Mosley, attorney of record, Black Lives Matter.
Okay, so he wants someone to summarize the Black Lives Matter branches.
Do you want to do that, Angela?
Angela, yes.
Angela does that so very well. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. The biggest difference between BLM Grassroots, Black Lives Matter Grassroots, and the Global Network Foundation is that we are the work. We are the boots on the ground. The foundation, by its title, is a foundation. That is what it is designed to do. It has stepped into territory without experience, without qualification, and without the people. That is the biggest difference. And that is why we say, we declare, and we know it to be fact, that we are Black Lives Matter.
This individual that you was a member early on of the organization. What was the genesis of it?
Mr. Bowers was hired as a consultant. Mr. Bowers hired other consultants. Mr. Bowers contracted with himself and other individuals under his consulting firm and positioned his firm to be the arbiters of the future of the people. And we declare and we proclaim that he is an impersonator, that he has been dishonest, and that he has misrepresented his intentions from day one.
And he's never been a member.
Never been a member, never been boots on the ground. He can only parrot what he hears boots on the ground say. He can lift from our work. He can steal our work. He can steal our brands, but he can never be Black Lives Matter because it is a movement of the spirit. It is a movement of love, and it is a movement of truth. He does not represent Black Lives Matter.
Say it, Angela. Yes.
Chapters, the boots on the ground, have never hired Bowers. Bowers was hired by the Global Network Foundation. He has never had an affiliation with chapters. It is a separate entity that was created outside of the work of boots on the ground with the intention to support the work of the boots on the ground. That is its very purpose. The purpose of the Global Network Foundation was to support the work of chapters. That is not what is happening. And that is why we say Bowers is misrepresenting and has co-opted and taken what does not belong to him.
That's right. That's right, Angela.
My name is Angela Waters Austin. ANGELAWATERS My title is Director of Operations and Policy for BLM Grassroots, and I'm the co-founder of BLM Lansing and BLM Michigan, where we didn't have the platform to speak up for the family of Patrick Lyoya when he needed us the most. Shame on you.
Can you walk through the process of how the organization Grassroots has exhausted all efforts to try to regain control of the assets as well as intellectual properties?
It grieves me to be here, as I know it grieves my sisters, my brothers, our family. We would never bring this conversation into the public unless it was absolutely necessary.
That's right.
We thought that we were in a mutually agreed relationship to follow the initial intent that is out in the public to view. 2 leaders were identified to manage this transition who were never onboarded. That is also in the public domain and has been. What began as a transition ultimately became, and I'm going to use the word coup.
That's right.
Infiltration.
That's right.
In movement terminology, it was infiltration. And we found ourselves being handled by a master handler. He knew what to say to gain trust. He knew what to say to get himself left in the position where he could simply take control and push us out.
My words, not yours. Hijack, would that be fair?
I'm hesitant to use that language because of what's associated with it. I will say that he has taken what is not as his. He has misappropriated what is not as his. Co-optation is an act of white supremacy.
As recently as March, there are BLM, in fact, Dr. Molina's radio show is still branded on forward-facing website of Black Lives Matter. Is that an example of, as you kind of said, the co-opted, taking over and using boots on the ground, that message?
I'll say that it is an opportunity taken advantage of. And